guys, and welcome back to another video. For those of you that are new, I am Chelsea. I am a recent graduate of the University of York studying law, and I'm now doing my Masters at King's College London in medical law and ethics. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about how to choose the best university and course for you. I know right now it's like September, going back to school, applications for UCAS are due in imminently, so that thought is kind of lingering on a lot of people's minds of like, where do you go to uni? What do I even want to study? Especially me, when I was making those decisions, I wasn't really sure about any of it, so I kind of want to offer a bit of advice. So these are the things I basically considered when I was looking at universities and when I was deciding to study law. So firstly, I'm going to go through what you need to look for when you're looking for a university, and then do the same for a course. And then I want to end this video with a few helpful links, which will all be in the description, but places to look really for more advice about what I'm talking about in this video if you're not quite sure about, certain questions and things like that. So firstly, for university, I think one of the easiest ways to filter down universities is grades. You know roughly probably what you will be getting or what you want to get, so you can kind of filter down universities by what sort of will match your grade. So if you're sort of the A-star student or getting A's, A, B's, then you can sort of look at Russell groups or ones that are higher on the league tables. If you're sort of getting slightly lower grades than that, then you can sort of kind of figure out which universities would be open to applications from your grade set. So that's a good way to sort of filter down universities. Once you've done that, then you can look at location. So you really need to think about, do you want to be close to home? Do you want to be able to go back within half an hour, 2 hours? Or do you want to have a completely new experience and go somewhere else and experience a whole new part of the UK or culture, or even abroad if you want to look into going abroad? And at the same time, what comes with that is if you are, quite far away from your family, you can't come back all the time because it might be expensive, or, it might be difficult when you're like moving in and stuff like that, or like to go home for any like family events and things like that. They're things you need to sort of factor in and think about when you're looking at location for a university. Then going off that, in terms of location, is do you want to be in a city? Do you want to be, in a campus? So when I was applying to university, I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to be in a city or campus, so I kind of applied to a mix. So I applied to places like SOAS, Bristol and Manchester that were like more city based, and then also like York and Surrey, which are more campus based but close to a city. So they're things to think about. Do you want to be smack bang in the middle of a city? But note that your accommodation and your department are likely to be quite far apart, so you're going to have to obviously travel between each one, and it's in the city, so if it's busy or if it's quite touristy, you're going to have to deal with that going to and from university every day. Or if you want to be on a campus where everything is a self-contained student sort of unit, you have your little student bubble, and then you just sort of go into the city for nights out and things like that. So they're kind of like things you want to think about. Also going off that, and this really was a big factor for me when I was looking at universities, shamelessly so, is that you need to look at rankings. For a lot of subjects like law or medicine or things that are quite competitive, ranking is quite important. It's not the be all and end all, but it kind of is important at the same time. If you want to aim for those high jobs, it just makes life a bit easier if you go to a higher ranking university. So there are things like Russell groups, or generally just universities in the top 20, top 25. So what I did is I knew I wanted to go to a Russell Group university, so I kind of looked at all like 20 Russell Group universities, however many there are. I was doing a BTEC, which limited my lot down quite a lot, so going back to grades again. And then I just kind of found the universities that I liked, and then I kind of just whittled it down in terms of looking at location, looking at like more factors that I'm going to mention in a minute. So that's kind of how I did mine. Then also going off that, I suppose, is your career prospects. A lot of these sort of ranking university sites do mention like how frequently people get jobs after graduation or go into further studies, so they're quite important statistics. You do not want to be going to university if everyone goes there and then is unemployed still. That's quite an important thing to look at. And also, if you want to do a course that requires a qualifying degree, i.e. like law, then you need to go to a university that offers a qualifying degree, otherwise you won't be able to follow on the career path that you want to. So that's something also to note when you're looking at courses and just university generally. Plus, along with career prospects, you want to look at the links that university has with employers that you're thinking about applying to. So how often do they have careers fairs? What type of companies have been linked to that university before? How often is it that people who go to that university get certain jobs that you're interested in? Those are things you want to look at in order to kind of figure out whether if you go to this university, you'll be able to get where you want to go. Then also going off that, back again to the sort of the ranking, websites, is student satisfaction. On there, it's often listed, what people generally thought of the university as students. I wouldn't say the student satisfaction ratings are completely accurate, because especially at York, I know that a lot of students were very unsatisfied with the course, but I don't think they were, they felt comfortable putting that on the rating. I think they felt it was almost a bit mean to do that. So they're not necessarily completely accurate, and at the same time, that is an subjective personal opinion. The rankings might not necessarily represent the experience that you have at that university, but they are important to note. Like, if you look and Google that university and see what people have said about it, if all the students say, oh, it's awful for X, Y, and Z reasons, it's something to sort of factor in. Another big thing, especially in your first year, I suppose, is looking at accommodation. That was one of the things that kind of decided for me which university I wanted to go to. I wanted accommodation that was going to be nice, located kind of well near my department, and that was also very affordable. There were really nice, halls and stuff at some universities, but they were like 12,000 a year, and who can really afford that on a student loan? So for me, that made me scratch off some universities, especially ones in London. Halls are normally a lot more expensive, but if you're set on London, then it's kind of, you've got to factor all of that in. So yeah, I kind of looked at accommodation a lot and looked at all of the different options they had at each university to see if I could see myself living in any of them. And I also looked to see whether I could stay on in accommodation in my second year, whether accommodation would be randomly allocated to me, or whether I could decide which hall of residence I wanted to apply to. All of those things really. Then separately from that, I also looked at whether I wanted to go to a collegiate university or just a normal halls of residence university. Basically, the main difference is there are a few universities in the UK that have a collegiate system. York was one of them, Durham is, Oxford, Cambridge, those other places. So basically you have certain colleges, and then all the accommodation block is under one college. So it basically means you're just a lot more tight knit with a lot more people, because say for example for me, I was in Constantine College at York, and there was about 600 people in that college. You stay in that college for your 3 years, even if you choose to move out of your halls of residence. And because it's, has a central hub that was based in your college, all the events and stuff are run with college. So you basically just meet more people, and it's a lot more connected being in a collegiate system. However, people might not like that, and they might want to be more in halls. So you just go in your flat of halls of residence, you have the people in your flat that and then you may get to know another flat up and down. But realistically, if someone's in a hall of residence across town from you, you probably will never meet them. So it's something to consider really, depending on the university that you go to. Another thing is the teaching style for your course. So for example, with York, the teaching style they had for my course was very, very different to how it is other courses. So that kind of was incorporated in my decision making. But, kind of look at how the course is delivered and what modules they offer and whether that's something you can see yourself doing. And then also extracurriculars and sports and things you can get involved with. Generally, the sports and extracurriculars at most universities are completely the same. And if there's something that they don't have, you're normally allowed to set it up anyway. So that's not necessarily a deal breaker thing, but it's just worth looking into, because I think especially when you look at the societies that are offered at a university, it gives you an insight into the type of students that university has and what the type of people are like. So it's kind of worth just having a quick look anyway. So I'd say that's all my advice for picking a university. And then once you have your set of universities of 5, 10, 20 universities you've whittled it down to, then you want to look at course and see whether they offer your course. So for course, if you know exactly what course you want to do, then I suppose this is a bit redundant, but the first thing I want to say is what job do you think you'll want to do? The way I decided that I wanted to do law over film or philosophy was because I thought, what do I want in the future? What type of lifestyle do I want? How much money will I want? How many hours will I want to work? Do I want to work from home? Do I want to be self-employed? Do I want to, work in an office? Do I want to work outside and, use my hands and do sort of more manual jobs? Do I want to work all through the year? Do I want to be able to have breaks off? Do I want to work part-time, full-time? You know, what type of field did I want to work in? What type of people did I want to work with? Did I want to work with children? Did I want to work with adults? Did I want to work in the hospitality sector? What type of things did I want? And when I kind of thought about that to quite a great extent, it kind of crossed off a lot of areas for me and left me with, you know, law's probably the right one. Then I also looked at my personality. I did multiple personality quizzes, but I also thought generally more about me and thought, what is my working style? Like, what do I really like? Do I really like working with people? Do I want to work on my own? Do I really thrive off communication or working in groups or working on my own, working independently? Do I want to work long hours or not? And what type of things did I genuinely feel like I would be capable of doing, would sacrifice and do, or would downright like just not be happy doing? And just generally my personality and what type of job role would match it. That's kind of how I came to the area and the sector of what I wanted to do. And from that, then I could look into what degree do I need to do that. Also, another way of doing it is looking at what subjects you've done previously and what you've liked. So if you absolutely loved a subject in school, it might make sense to then do that at university. Or, you know, if there's something you do as a hobby that you really like, then doing that at university. I think it's also worth noting now that, so for example, you want to say do law or something like I did, then you don't necessarily have to have a law degree. You might be able to do a conversion course and do a different subject that you really love doing and then just do a conversion course later down the line. So it's kind of worth weighing up your options if you are set on a like straight path, whether there are other ways around you can get there. You might not necessarily have to go down like the black and white route. You might be able to get there a different way. So hopefully then, once you have an idea of the sector you want to go into or sort of the subject area more generally, then you can think about, well, how long do I want to study for? Do I want to do 3 years? Do I want to do like a quick course of 2 years? 4 years? Do I want to do an integrated master's? Do I want to have a year abroad or a year in industry? Do I want to learn a language alongside whatever you're studying? You know, factor those in, and I think that really helps you whittle down the courses at the universities that you've kind of picked. Then I would say to whittle it down further is to read all the course descriptions. So look at what modules they offer, look at what opportunities people have had from studying that degree. You know, what is the split of coursework to exams? What do you excel at more? Are you better at coursework, better exams, you know, and choose accordingly. Do you want to do practical modules? Do you want to just solely do essay-based modules or theory modules? Do you want to be able to do in-industry work as part of a module? Like, what do you really want to be studying? What is the teaching style? How are they going to deliver this course? How much teaching time do you get? How much contact time with your lecturers? How is it split? Do you get small-based teaching groups, big-based teaching groups? How big are your lectures? Things like that are really what you want to think about, and you also want to relate that back to the education that you've had currently, you know, whether it's at sixth form or college, and think, what has and hasn't worked for me? Do I like being in big groups? Do I like one-on-one teaching time? What do you prefer? And then follow that on with university and the course that you want to study there. So hopefully at this point you will kind of know what course you want to do, and it's just then, I guess, of flicking back and forth between the universities that you've kind of picked and then the courses that you've picked, and then choosing the top 5 that you think you'll have a good shot at and that you want to go to. My bit of advice would be, if you feel like you're not going to get the grades, like, back yourself, because that was me. I didn't think I would get the grades, so I didn't want to apply to like 4 Russell groups. But then I kind of had a pep talk from my lecturer and they were like, no, do it, you'll be fine, don't worry about it, you can always go through clearing, which is what I did. And I completely, like, I'm glad I did that, because I was going to apply to other universities that was 50-50 on, and I think if I got offers from them, I wouldn't have wanted to go anyway, so it would have been pointless. So basically what I'm trying to say is just apply to the top 5 unis that you think you have a really good shot of getting into. If you want to say do a backup, but as I said, there's always clearing, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you're happy about going to all of the universities you apply to, then they're worth applying to. So I want to end this video really with some links, helpful websites to go to that, as I said, will all be linked in the description anyway, that will basically offer more information or will enable you to get information to answer the questions that I've sort of posed in this video. So I'm just going to read them out. So you want to look at university websites, obviously, and also look for their open days, whether they're online or not, because they're a really great opportunity to ask the staff, admission staff and students questions about the course and the university lifestyle. Also speak to current students, even if you have to like go on LinkedIn or like go online and find students at the university studying the course that you do. I get a lot of questions from students who want to study law, want to come to York, who ask me things. I think that's a really good way to kind of find out on the ground what it's actually like at that university. And also the admissions team, well, that's what they're there for. They're there to ask questions. They're a really invaluable sort of group because they're kind of obligated to answer your questions too, so you know you're probably going to get a good response. Also, if you message an admissions team and they just don't get back to you, or they're a bit like blunt, I think it does provide a really good insight about what that university is like and what their staff are like. So you also want to look at the UCAS website because they have a lot more information on there. It condenses all of the grades you need and whether you're like eligible to apply for that course and what the university is offering your course are and what's available. And also YouTube videos. I think YouTube is one of the most invaluable sources out there to really find out a lot of information in a short period of time with like minimal effort. So if you want to look at accommodation or look at students or look at like courses or whatever to do with that university, most likely YouTube will have a video on it, or there'll be a vlogger or something at that university. So that's just like a really great way to find out more information from that university in a more informal way. And then finally, I would say Prospects is a really good website that lists basically all the potential careers you could possibly think of and then what qualifications you need in order to do that career. So if you're still debating about what course you might want to do or what job you want to do in the future with a certain degree, that's a really good place to look. So I hope you liked this video and I hope you found it useful. Good luck for the new academic year and writing all UCAS applications. I will be putting a video out very soon about personal statements and my advice to you guys and how I got into 2 Russell Group universities with my personal statements. So hopefully you guys will like that video too. If you want any other videos about, you know, applying to university or going back to sort of school and things like that, please put them in the comments below and I'll be happy to, you know, reply to them or potentially make videos. So I will see you in the next video. I will see you next week. Bye guys.